Good morning, everybody. Good morning. Good morning. Welcome to another edition of Morning Coffee with Minister Toya Woodland and Darnella Renee. This morning we have a special guest, Joshua Sherman from the Green Party of Minnesota, and he also ran for the Sixth Ward. Was it
Yeah.
the Sixth Ward alderman position last year? And we are so happy to have you. I know you do a lot of things for the Green Party. I'm gonna let you tell them because I don't know them all. But we're so glad that you could join us. And Darnella's having some technical difficulties this morning, so she'll be popping in and out. Welcome.
Hi. Yeah. Thank you for having me. Yeah, for sure. So again, I'm Joshua Schuneman. So I'm one of the members of the Minnesota Green Party's Central Committee, or CC, kind of the main central in charge body of the Green Party. And then I am the chair of the Environmental Committee, which handles environmental issues going on here in the state, like the Tall Sands pipeline up northern Minnesota, Northern Meadows, here, the pesticides in the park, some of the issues we're working on now. And then I'm in the chair of the Coordinated Campaign Committee, which is in charge of helping campaigns get off the ground, help with campaign finance, the ins and outs of rules and laws and all the confusion with that, deadlines, kind of help with infrastructure, all kinds of things like that. And I also am a member of the Media Committee, helping with social media outreach, and then the database and handling all of our membership data and making sure it's secure with my, I have a long-standing IT background with over 12 years in the business and being certified too, so I pretty well handled in that first. And then on top of that, I am my own small business owner. I run Citius Political Consulting, so I run campaigns and help work on campaigns through messaging and the whole outreach and social media and all that too.
That is absolutely wonderful. There's Don. How you doing?
That's a mouthful.
That's absolutely wonderful. Thank you for being on. Today we're talking about hidden racism and white supremacy and white privilege. Today, in Minnesota. Oh my God! Hold on. I'm doing my show. I'm live. I'll call you back. Everybody wants to. You know what? It's because I'm supposed to be off the air right now, right? Because I started late. So Aries like, okay, we can call her. Finally, it's 11 o'clock. But no, I'm still on the show. So I'm just starting. Good morning, everybody. Good morning, Darnella. It's good to see you. How was your guys' weekend? What did you do this weekend?
Pretty good. Not a lot, actually. I sat at home and was getting some work done, getting some working on a project here at home that's pretty labor intensive. So finally was working on that.
What did I do? I slept a lot this weekend. I had been sick last week, so I was like really quarantining, I guess. So I slept and I slept and I slept and I ate and I ate and I ate. And Darnella, I'm gonna need Darnella to use her phone data I'm gonna need her to use her phone data because the Wi-Fi is not getting. And so what else did I do? I watched a lot of I caught up on my television shows. Like I am a big This Is Us fan.
Okay.
So I caught up on all of This Is Us. I caught up on all my television shows. Yesterday I had a lot of meetings. I did a panel. I had like 12, seemed like 50 meetings. It just seemed like I was having meetings about the meetings about the meeting.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I literally sat in one space in my house for like 4 hours, like one chair. But yeah, I just sort of hung out in my house this weekend. I'm get ready to go to Washington tomorrow. Woo! We're gonna make our big call for reparations, and we're gonna tell the people.
Okay.
Use your phone data.
Try to get closer to a window or something. Why am I? You can't hear me. Why am I?
I can hear you.
No, I'm talking about Darnella. Like,
No,
she
you can
can't
type
help
it
that
into the
part.
private. She can into the. Can you guys see the private chat? She typed
Yeah.
it in. I guess you can type it into the private chat. Um, but this morning we are here. We are going to talk about the hidden face of racism. And what I want to let you know, guys, know first is that this is Minnesota nice, right? T-Mobile should not be acting like that. We're gonna need them to or boost that or boost or should not be acting like that. But we're gonna talk about how we're always saying that we're Minnesota nice when we're really Minnesota the ugly or Minnesota the mean. It's not. We are passive aggressive. We have passive aggressive racism here. Um, and I'm coming to believe in Chicago, where I come from, it's intentional outright. We know what we do in racism, right? Here in Minnesota, because white privilege is so embedded in the body of white people here, is they don't know when they're doing racist things or when racism is part of their behavior. I'm really beginning to believe that they don't understand. They're like, I'm not racist, but yes, you are. You're doing racist things. You're exhibiting racist behavior. That and if I'm as a black woman, if I'm telling you your behavior is racist, then I will expect for you to take a look at it and fix it, right? But no, the racism is so embedded into the DNA of and white privilege into the DNA of white people here in Minnesota that we that they don't even know that they're being racist. And I'm sorry, guys. I started an hour late, so everyone is calling me who waited to get. I got off the air and without knowing that I'm still on the air. But Josh, how do you feel about that? Being a white man here in Minnesota and having that privilege, we got to say that being white gives you that white privilege. So, and if you're not using your white privilege to fight against injustice, then those people who don't do that are really using their white privilege against us. I know. Well, how do you feel about that?
I totally agree. Like, I can say several examples and have it be several different years worth of examples. Most recently, during the revolution here last summer too, having my white privilege. I was there standing, protecting the people that are getting hit. I was standing there under the canopy right across the police station as they were firing shots into us with rubber bullets, and I'm standing at the thing saying, "You missed, hit me." Or when I'm there, or when I was, how am I blanking at this moment? As I had it in my head 2 seconds ago. I was volunteering at the medical tent right across the street, and they were tear gassing inside the medical tent, throwing tear gas. I'm out there trying to protect everyone and move people. And then a little bit farther back, my family. I just like racism. I'm gay. I'm gay, so homophobia is in that same kind of line of same thing.
You're gay?
Yeah.
Oh, you know.
The sarcasm. I knew. I was gonna say it, and I was like, he's gonna do something, and I was waiting. But I do the same thing when it comes to that. Like, I call it out. I have family members who will blatantly say shit like that. There's people when I've been canvassing. There's even been times where I was canvassing here in Minnesota, out out near Blaine area, and we walked across someone whose garage, walked up to the garage, hanging in the garage, giant swastika flag. It's Minnesota nice, but
Minnesota is a predominantly white state. I mean, Black people ended up here as a result of wealthy slave owners who would come and visit who would purchase land here and come and put money into businesses here and come and visit, and they would bring their slaves here. So Minnesota could have either been a slave territory or it could have been a non-slave territory. It was a non-slave territory, which allowed slaves to come for a period of time, right? So they can get around that whole. It's never been a state that's been welcoming to American descendants of chattel slavery. It's never been a state that has wanted those people to come and settle here. So when we look at how we're being treated, it's because they've never really wanted us. They did tolerate us, but they never wanted us here. I remember being here in 1994, and before the refugee in rush, before there was a lot of refugees here, and life was pretty good for Black people in Minnesota. It wasn't as bad as it is now with the racism, or it wasn't shown like it is now. Like, I think that people have always been racist. They just have not. They have the freedom to show it now, even if they're not Republican, even if they're Democrat or Green or Independent or socialist or whatever. Trump gave them all the freedom, the okay to say, now let's be our true selves, and we no longer have to hide. We don't have to hide from anyone, because this is our country. When you talk about America, America equals white, white equals America. So when you say America, you're basically saying, to white, in the mind of the white people, then you're basically saying white, because they believe that they own this place. Although they robbed and stole and pillaged and killed and raped and all of the things that they did for it.
Yeah, I totally agree. And having that, and being a person where I'm personally a big kind of got into as a kid genealogy, and I can trace my mother's side history all the way back to the 18th signer of the Mayflower Compact, the first people here, one of the people that signed the document that started all this shit, that started all of this
stuff.
And I instantly started. I regretted swearing the instantly I said it. So I take that into account when I'm saying when I have to, like, I want to show that I'm an ally in this. I actually truly believe that we did something terrible and we need to repay it, and through reparations, through all actions, protecting the people that before all the ones that are being attacked.
Now, when you talk about reparations, so when you talk about reparations, is there a specific people that you believe deserve reparations, or is it just reparations for all Black people or ADOS Black people? I mean, what is your understanding of reparations for those of us in America?
So I strongly believe that reparations it's kind of multifaceted. So yes, there should be dedicated reparations for American descendants of slavery, ADOS people. Then there should also be a separate one, not specifically called reparations, but something in that same kind of form for Native Americans too, because it is a whole separate issue that we did this even before we started bringing slaves over. We started that process and had an influence here with that. So we should also do something more significant, or if not in the same line, that will fit with what they're needing too, because we also did things afterwards with reservations and taking of the land and this, and it's just so much faceted that trying to say one group should have reparations and other people shouldn't, it gets kind of muddy. But then we need to make sure that yes, this is an issue that needs to be happening. Like,
the one thing I can say about the difference between ADOS and Native Americans, let's break it down. There were some Native American tribes who had slaves, who owned slaves.
Yep.
Cheetah, the actor John Cheetah, his family was owned by indigenous people.
Yep.
So there are some, and they not only did they own slaves, but they refused to let them go after the Emancipation Proclamation was signed. They held on to they like, we good. That had to do with we're gonna keep our slaves to ourselves, right? And so that's one thing that happened. And I got a comment. Let me go up here to my comments. I can't see y'all. Y'all know I can't see. I got 5 comments. I'm sorry. Hey Marissa. Hey, good afternoon, Black Truth. The worst part of, what did she say? The worst part of the people that don't consider themselves racist, but they have not confronted their privilege, cognitive dissonance of their indoctrination. So, girl, with them big words this morning. All right, look, use that social worker degree.
Yeah, I
So
like
they are
that.
silent
That is well put.
and in
Melissa,
turn,
that is very well put.
yes.
I have to agree. And that's why, to get back to what you were saying, Toya, yeah, that's why I said we need to do something completely different, but in the same kind of framework and methodology and system like we were thinking for reparations, but for Native Americans, because they did, like you said, they did hold slaves, and they were the last ones to give up the slaves.
And then I don't want to push the issue, but the casinos are designated for, I don't mind, sharing reparations. They're gonna share that casino money with me. I don't, so I do know that there have been some provisions made for Native American people that have not been made for American descendants of slavery. And we can talk about CPS. There are provisions in place for child protective services that keep Native American children in their homes that ADOS children don't have. ADOS children are the highest removal of the highest for-profit prisons, the highest removal rate from their homes, and so they have. Native Americans have this particular plan in place where their children are protected under this certain law that we don't have, and no one wants to give it to us. Khalees has been fighting really hard for, like, as long as I've known this little lady. She's been fighting for for CPS, against CPS, and for children, and us to have that particular that same legislation put in place for our children that they have for their children. So our struggle is just a little bit different. I do think that there are some tribes that have got gypped, but then a lot of ADOS people have Indian blood. I'm sorry, forgive me, Jesus, have Native American blood in them, and have been disqualified from any type of
being on the wall, on the wars and all that too,
right? Or any type of payment, or any type of revenue from the casinos, or any of that. So a lot of if you can't own slaves and you didn't make no more slaves, right? So just like the white man made more slaves with his slaves, so did the Native American make more slaves with his slaves. So but they didn't get counted as Native Americans. But we had those $5 Indians that came along and got counted. So I do have, while I do feel for their plight, I just think that it's a different plight. And it really has a lot to do, because they've gotten some stuff. They need to work that out with the United States government. But and they accepted what the government gave them. See, that was their choice, to accept what they gave them. They could have said, we're not going to accept this. We're going to continue to fight.
And they accepted it, then the government turned back and revokes all the decisions that they made too. And that's why I said something completely different. And I was thinking there's some places where the casino, and again, I'm not a legal expert, and I don't know everything about it. Just love reading and love knowing about subjects, and having family members who are Native American too.
I have family members who have Native American blood in them, but they don't get recognized, right? Like they're ADOS, right? So John Bergen said for-profit prisons. We had CCA here.
Oh yeah.
We were Darnella and I were some of the people who went to the Capitol about 4 or 5 years ago to keep them from reopening CCA, which is a for-profit prison. For-profit prisons have to be filled, right? So when you open up a prison and it's deemed to, you have to fill it. You have to open it up. You got to fill it. And who you think are going to fill those bodies with? Black and brown people, right? Mostly ADOS. right? It used to be a fair amount of number of black and brown, but now it seems to be that we are more targeted than anybody else these days. So they're filling these jails with us because they can, first and foremost, and due to that mass incarceration, which happened when Biden signed the crime bill in 1994. Let me just say this: Joe Biden authored the largest, let me take my glasses off, the largest crime bill in American history. It destroyed over 2 million families. It placed 2 million black men, more black men in prison than there are white women in this country right now. So it broke up homes. Children were removed from their families. Things were destroyed. And this is where the state of the black union is today. And that's because of the man that 90% of black people went to the polls and put in office. Now I understand we had Hitler as our other choice, but I want to let you know that you traded in Hitler for who's another terror? Putin? I don't know who's terrible. Who's a terrible dictator?
Putin, Gaddafi,
for any other really, really bad dictator. You traded in Hitler for another dictator who is going to do nothing but damage. Let me tell you, black people, he does not like us. He's never liked us. He looked us in our face and said, black people have always had his back, and now I will have his. Where were you having our back when you placed all of those black men in jail? I have a cousin that's in jail right now, been there for like 20-something years for a $50 bag of marijuana. And that's not okay. That's not okay, right? We have to hold our leaders accountable. Now he's president, right? What do you think?
And they have Kamala Harris as vice president, and he picked her to appease the ADOS vote, the black vote.
Well, that's not what she did.
But she's not even that, because look at her prosecution history in California. It's terrible. It goes along with Biden's 1994 crime bill. It's literally like hand in hand, holding hands. He wrote the book on how to do it, and she's following the book to a T.
Well, first of all, Kamala's not ADOS. Let's say that. Kamala is half Indian and half Jamaican, right? Jamaican is Jamaican. You can't call a Jamaican ADOS. They'll get mad at you, right? Normal ones. What she did was she wrote off our lineage to get put into office. And we so excited about seeing black people who look like us in any type of position. We're like, oh, she's black. She does not know our struggles. She does not share our lineage. So she has not been through it. She's Brahmin Indian, half Brahmin. That's the highest caste system in India. Right, she's of the highest caste system. She went to Howard University, but Howard's expensive. Let's keep it 100. Like Howard is really expensive. It was expensive then. She went to Howard University, but her family on her father's side owned slaves. So she's truly not one of us, and she locked people up for truancy in California. For truancy in California, there was a mother and her daughter. I think she had sickle cell or multiple sclerosis or one of those illnesses that kept her in the hospital all the time.
Yeah.
He literally sent the police to this woman's house because her child had been missing school because she was in the hospital, right? Had been missing school because she was in the hospital and had this woman locked up. This lady just got out of all of that legal. She just began to get her life back within the last couple of years. And her child was 12. Her child's grown now. Her child was 12 back then. And Kamala she wasn't woman enough to even apologize for the trauma that she brought onto that family. We as ADOS people, we suffer from post-slavery traumatic syndrome, right? So when things like that happen to us, when we're continuing to be oppressed, continue to be ostracized, continue to be hurt in this country by the systems, that trauma compounds. It compounds and compounds and compounds until we we're using drugs and we're having mental breakdowns, and we're committing suicide, and all these things result from the trauma that that's in our blood, in our DNA, in the very onset of our cell and the nucleus of our cell is that trauma from slavery, and it continues to go on through Jim Crow, through redlining, through districting, through lack of jobs, mass incarceration, mass suspensions, removal of our children. All of those things continue to create that trauma. We want to get to a place where that trauma is being looked at. And the first place that will help that trauma is reparations. I don't want to be confused. Cut the check. We've been talking a lot about reparations. And people are saying it's not about just about cutting the check. No, it's not just about cutting the check. But let's not be confused. Cut the check.
Yep.
Pay the debt. Pay the debt. And if I owe the light company, they're not going to let me say, oh, it was a long time ago. I owed them like 1985. I don't owe them now. I don't owe them now, right? So they would just continue to bill me.
Yeah.
That's not a long debt. You owe me, pay me.
Just like how you can't default on federal student loans, that's the only thing that you can't default on. You still have to pay them, even if you go bankrupt.
Mm-hmm.
It should be just like for reparations. You can't default on this debt. It's an old debt, and it's going to be outstanding until you pay it.
You know, I like what Darnella said. They blackwashed the Biden administration, put black faces to calm the masses. Be careful who they are working for. Now, these black faces that they put on to calm the masses are black, but they're not ADOS, right? So I saw a picture, a commercial of Biden. They're doing something today, and it had Martin Luther King in the commercial, and all of that. You want to exploit our lineage to be, so that we accept you in our communities, and we continue to promote you in our community. But let me tell you something, guys, and that's for every black person out here. Biden said within the first 100 days, his main priority was immigration, not ADOS, not reparations, not building structure in the black community, not streamlining a black agenda that was tailored for American descendants of slavery. But he is doing his best to bring citizenship to 11 million immigrants. Where does that leave you? Where does that leave us? Right? Where does that leave the black people in American descendants of slavery? Where does it leave us? Ask yourself. Just ask yourself where that would leave you. Yes, pay the debt with interest.
Yeah, with interest. I totally agree too. Yeah. And with everything going on too, with the pandemic and everything too, the economic downturn that we're facing, and with the uncertainty of when it's gonna get better, having 11 more people on job rosters legally is gonna be hurting job opportunities. People are gonna say, but it's also going to help pay for things like reparations and those more stimulus checks too, because soon it's going to be those withholding taxes are going to, the not having to pay, that's going to be ending soon once Trump leaves, hopefully, because that was only helping big businesses. So once that is done, we're going to start doing that. So maybe we'll be able to get that money moving a little bit more easier, but hopefully.
I'm going to ask you a question, Josh.
Yeah.
You may or may not be able to answer this for me. But what I'm noticing about white privilege here in America is that white privilege tells you that you're always right. White privilege says, and I'm noticing this for some people that we may work with, may or may not work with, we work with. I'm gonna say get as close as I can because I promised I wasn't gonna call anybody out. But
I don't think I replied to that email.
You can't, because I'll get shut down. And so excuse me. And I promised that we wouldn't. So but this is what I'm saying. What I'm noticing about white privilege, it tells you that you don't have to listen to black leadership, young leadership, gay leadership, any leadership that's not in that symbolism of whiteness. or what white supremacy says is whiteness. So if you're a white person and you think that this is what, if your thoughts are how to run something or do a business or even play a game is better than than the person, a black person or someone young or any of that, then you're automatically considered right in your own mind. You are a legend and you're right in your own mind. And how do we get white people to see that that is not okay? And then they don't believe that they're racist when they do this because of the white privilege being embedded so deeply into the DNA, the very core of who they are. So how do we get them to realize that first of all they are exuding white privilege and racist behavior, and then how do we explain to them how to fix it, or should we explain to them how to fix it? It's our job to fix them.
Yeah, it is a tough one. Well, I kind of came to the thought process for myself when it comes to that. When it kind of, I'm trying to think of where it came from, but it came from a TV, like a newsy program, like a satire program, and they were talking about how to deal with Trump supporters and someone you disagree with. It's kind of how they put it was like, don't yell and repeat your point. State facts with actual state evidence-based facts once. Don't repeat them, and show with statements how it affects you, and having another white ally to say, hey, this is being privileged. This is showing you white privilege. You're being racist, such and such, to show some kind of thing. It's not a perfect first step. It's not a real good one at all, because it's showing that you have to have a white person to have your back to unmask this, and that's kind of its own catch-22. But if you just show that you're an ally, and if you're there to stand up for that person, if you're there to say, hey, that is racist, here's why it's racist, or here's why it's wrong, and you can state factually if it's a law, if it's a bylaw, a rule, if you're at your job, if it's a policy at work or something, it simply states something where it's showing that you're harassing or being racist or something like that.
I just want to go back to what Darnella said, and talking about the 11 million immigrants that he wants to make. Biden wants to make citizens in the first 100 days. I have been saying for years. No one ever listens to me, right? I say that's the story of my life. But I've been saying for years that we are being replaced. ADOS is being replaced, and there's the new black, and the new black. White people don't have to deal with reparations. The new black, they don't have to deal with the generational or the trauma of our people, where they don't have to make amends for the fact that we've been oppressed for 400 years. There's no guilt. It's the guilt-free black. That's what we're gonna call them, the guilt-free black. So there's no guilt when you deal with black people who are not ADOS, not the same level of guilt. That's why white people get so touchy when you talk about racism, because along with that comes a certain amount of guilt.
Oh yeah, for sure. And I thought when you were talking about that, when you said the new black, I thought you were talking about immigrants from Central and South America, because I was going to say, when you said guilt-free white, guilt-free whatever, I was going to say no. Guilty-free black. I was going to say no, not so much, because a lot of the countries that they're coming from, the U.S. kind of had a lot of the hand in causing a lot of the unstable situations that they're in, too. So, through the CIA and all of the fun things of the 80s.
Yeah, that's true. Also, when instead of okay, so like when refugees come to America, they're giving housing and they're giving an automatic credit score of so much. You ever be riding down the street and say, "Hey, how you doing?" You ever be riding down the street and be like, "How is it that this person can drive this Lexus and they just got here last week, and I've been trying to get my credit score up all my life?" Now let's talk about credit scores for a minute. That's a good segue into credit scores. American descendants of slavery, our credit score, we are at a deficit from birth, right? And I say we, I'm talking about, of course, I know people that Josh is white. I'm not talking about Josh. I'm talking about me. But when we're at a deficit from birth, whereas you and I could have been born on the same day at the same hospital in the same town, right? Yeah. My credit score would have been at a negative, while you would have been given a positive credit rating as from birth, right? So we only about 21% of Black Americans have a credit score of 700, which is considered decent credit, right? Most of us fall below the 600 credit limit line. And I don't care how hard I try. I keep trying to get up there, and then they'll knock me back down. And which needs to be a part of reparations, because I believe that my credit, we should be given 900 credit scores to begin with. But that's hard because Black people were credit. Slave owners received their credit based on the number of slaves that they owned. So we were the credit. That's how people develop credit. So taking the credit and giving it credit has been a hard transition for the fight for the credit industry for the last 400 years. And it's been always that it's been by design that we have been held down credit wise so that we can't obtain loans, homes, businesses, so that we are always trying to rob Peter to pay Paul. Not only did they forfeit on the 40 acres that they were supposed to give us, mule in the $100, but that would have cost generational wealth. They made it almost impossible for us to have home ownership. It's very hard today. If you have a home and you're Black, keep it. Do the best you can. Move all your cousins in, all your aunties, uncles, and relatives in if you have to. But keep your home, because the design is for us to sell them all of our property, especially in the Rondo area, and that we may have no property, right? So if you have a home in your family, I say, I have a home in Indiana with my sister, with one of my sisters, and yeah, it's there. I'm not selling it. I don't care what you say. It's going to be there forever. If I got to move back home, if I got to move back to Indiana, that's what's going to happen. But yeah, so it's then we need to remove the credit ranking score. And I like that, Darnella. And if they can't, good morning, Ashley. And if they can't remove it, I say I want a 900. I want to see how it looks on a piece of paper.
Yeah, I do too. I want to see that. Mine isn't good at all, and it's never been good, no matter how hard I've tried. And I would love to see a 900 too in my life. And again, and I was talking about the difference between say American descendants of slavery reparations and some kind of program for Native Americans. That's something that would be different too, and then things like similar things that would kind of fall in that same line would say college debt too, student loans, eliminating that debt too, if it's not already eliminated for public colleges when Bernie Sanders takes the helm as finance chair in Congress.
He's still living. No, I'm just kidding. Mm-hmm. I know Bernie's still living, but yeah, I don't. When it comes to student debt, a lot of baby boomers went to college. Then that's one generation up from me. A lot of baby boomers went to college, and they were allotted the opportunity to go to college, and they have acquired a lot of student debt. And then even into my generation, we have those of us who went to college and acquired student debt. But today in America, you can get a degree on Google for $49.99.
I saw that.
You just saw that? I'm going to Google. Google College, here I come. Um, but today, a lot of our young black men, instead of going to college, are going to prison.
Yep.
So yes, and a lot of our black are going to prison. They're going to these for profit, like John talked about, these for profit prisons instead of going to college. A lot of our black women are a lot of more women are going to college than it are is black men, but a lot of us per se, there are more when we talk about giving college paying college debt for black people, we have to make sure that it's specific to ADOS because black people mean everybody. It's not just HBCUs. It's not just for African ADOS anymore. It was designed for ADOS. But it's not just for ADOS anymore. We got white people at HBCUs. We got immigrants. We got more immigrants at HBCU, African immigrants, than we do ADOS people when it was designed for us to have somewhere to go because they did not want it's designed to keep us segregated, right? So now when we talk about paying college debt, where that's not a big service for black people. We need, I mean, it's nice. Thank you very much. We appreciate it. It's good service. But what we need is for you to cut the check first and foremost. But then after that, we need business ownership. We need home ownership. We need programs designated for us to be able, and then we need, like Darnella said, we need to be removed from the credit rating system. We were the credit, we were the currency, but now we need to be removed from that rating system where we have and given advantages specifically tailored to American descendants of slavery, of child slavery. We have to have that. The wealth gap is too wide. Whites own 90% of this wealth, and we own 2.65% of this wealth. That's not okay. The average medium income for the Black American here in St. Paul, right where I'm sitting, is $15,000. It's $60,000 for our white counterparts. That's 4 times the wealth here, just here in St. Paul. And then when we look at America overall, the average medium income for the average black family is $17,000 and $171,000 for the average American white family, right? So it's about cutting that wealth gap. And I gotta say to all you Obama supporters, you big dummies, but Obama cost black people 50% of their wealth. We did home ownership when he was in office. Due to those balloon mortgages, and then that all blew up in our faces, the bank's face, and guess who he bailed out? It was the banks and not ADOS, right? Because he has no direct lineage and no type of feeling towards us. Yes, his wife is ADOS. Yes, his children are ADOS, but I don't know if he understands what that means, right? He looked at us, and he's always talking about tell Pookie and them to get off the couch. So he looked at us as if we were lazy to begin with, but you counted on us for our vote. And who is Pookie? I just want to know who Pookie and Ray Ray and them is to them, because they always tell them to get off the couch.
Yeah. Oh, I was gonna say what you were talking about before when you were saying how college debt, it's all good, but cut the check. And I was gonna say how I kind of explain it to and how I kind of talk about it when we do things like eliminating college debt and then taking ADOS out of the credit rating system. Then once we cut the check, you can use that for home ownership and building generational wealth. So it's not going to go to having to pay off the student loan. So it could be dedicated to actually pushing forward and not trying to dig yourself out of the hole. So it's an added layer to keep the motion forward and not have it.
I like that. That's why we need allies, right? Because we can't think of everything. That's why we need allies. I'm excited about what we're going to do in Washington this week, right? And a lot of people pulled out. Let's be real, because it's a threat. There's a threat of safety. Yeah. There's a threat of COVID. There's a threat. It's just a threat. But what we have to do is show up so that we can make our presence known, and let this administration know it's not okay that you bring in 11 million immigrants and give them citizenship before you you create a black agenda that's streamlined for American descendants of slavery, before you give us reparations, before you make sure that we're living comfortably in America. You're trying to replace us. So that's not okay. That's not okay. What's okay is you doing the work. If you cutting the check, they're all of a sudden coming up with millions and trillions of dollars in this pandemic. I'm saying, like, can I get paid? Can you cut my, can the hurt begin to heal? Because the hurt's not going to heal because we go to therapy. The hurt starts to heal when you cut the check, and then you start to create systems and put them in place that are streamlined for us so that the next generation is doing well. I want to see multi-generational. Once we get out of this hole, I don't ever want to see us get back in this hole. Not that I'll live to see us get back in the hole, but we need to make plans and to say that this will never happen to this group of people ever again. And I don't know why white people get so upset when we talk about reparations. And when you enjoy the benefits of the work of the slave, even if you live in Minnesota. And you might live in Minnesota and in Mankato or Minneapolis, and you're saying, well, how did my family didn't own slaves? How does that affect me? But let me tell you something. Slave money is all through here, through land, through the government, through there were slave owners that lived here, people who own slaves, who have streets here. So slave money, slave labor is all through here. Although there weren't. Yeah. Because of the ground and the climate, we couldn't till land. They couldn't till land here, but they would come here and purchase land. A lot of land that's generational, that a lot of people still live in today, right? They might not have slaves here. You might not even know your family owned slaves, but that slave, it was the money from slave labor that got you where you were. It's the money from slave labor that built the University of Minnesota. It's the money from slave labor that gave you that education that you got from that school. It's the money from slave labor that got you the things that you get. So while you did not own slaves, so what? You get the benefit from the labor that my ancestors performed here in America. Slave labor, the money from slaves reached all across the United States. It didn't stay in the South. What do you thought? They just spent their money amongst themselves? No, they put money into industries, into business, bought land and all sorts of things, meals and all kinds of things with that money. That money made them very wealthy, and they invested that money all over the world, just like they do today. Just like when you're wealthy, you invest money today, they do it. They did it then too. Yep. These are, let's see. Yes, Darnella said trillions and trillions and trillions. Yes. I didn't even get my last stimulus check. I'm still upset about that. So if you're watching, Biden, Kamala, can I get my money? Can you tell Trump to send me my check, because I ain't get it. So they have spent let's talk about the $600 that they gave extra with unemployment every week. That wasn't every 2 weeks. It wasn't $300 every 2 weeks. It was $600. So if you were making, my son, if he was making $400 in regular unemployment, then that means he got $1,000. That's $4,000 a month. You telling me they couldn't do that before now? They couldn't put a plan together like that for American descendants of slavery before the pandemic hit, before and carve out. White America doesn't want to see us do good. It's not in the design, and a few that do. And a lot of our allies, you're a rare breed, Josh. A lot of our allies, they want to help us until just enough to keep us right below them. We want to help you just enough where you stay right here. So we're not going to talk about reparations, but we'll talk about police brutality. We're not going to talk about them a black agenda. But what we will talk about is the fact that so-and-so got shot, and we need to see the tapes. They will they try to change the narrative. Let's talk about a people's agenda versus a black agenda. And so we want to help you, but just enough to keep you right there in poverty. Yes. So, and that's happening with a lot of organizations here in Minnesota.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna call everybody out today, y'all. I know y'all want me to, but I'm not.
That's why I have doubts about the People's Party. That's why I've had doubts about the PFL many times. That's why I have doubts about candidates here for running and ran for local offices, and it's sad. And then trying to help, like, how did I came to help and volunteer and start out with the Green Party was because something racist, and there was a racist incident that made the majority of our executive team leave and a lot of our membership leave. And
Mm.
I was like, we need to fix this problem from day one, and was suggesting ideas before I was even on the board, and electing people on the calls and calling them out, and being told to shut up, you can't talk.
You know, a lot of our what they call them, ranking greens. Is that what Andrea called them?
File.
Ranking file greens, which is a very racist term. By the way, I just want to let you know, because what it's saying is, established older white greens um whose opinion matters more. So $4.37 a month. Yes, I got that $4.37 in 1991. I just, you know what I'm saying. So if it's still $4.37, there's something wrong.
It's still $4.37, by the way.
It's still $4.37.
Yeah,
And
my cousin who's been dealing with CPS and all that, and I help her all the time. It's low.
I'm telling you, my rent was $395 in 1994. And I got $4.37 a month. And what they did was they vended my rent money to my rent. I stayed right here in Huntington Place Apartments. They were really nice back then. And me and my little baby, my oldest son, and then I was able to go to school. They had all these benefit programs until Clinton took office. I was able to go to school and use a lot of the social service programs here. But if they're still $4.37 a month, it says to me that that Black lives and poor lives and any other life that can't is not supposed to ever see anything over poverty. And you can't work and get $4.37 a month. You can't have a job. Not, you can barely have a man or anybody living in your house. That's another way they control households and system through the system. It's at $4.37 a month. There are people who just can't work, who aren't finding jobs, who are unable to work. They're trying to raise their children. And because they're not at home with their children, guess where they'll be? Their children will be in CPS. CPS is real these days. I'm so grateful that God is so good. Because that could have, hashtag why I'm green. I am green. Hashtag why I am green. Hashtag I am green because I was looking for a place where my voice could be heard, where my opinions mattered, and I could be a part of a welcoming political system. What I got was so much different than what I expected, but we're working on it. We're working on it. Working on changing the narrative in the Green Party, because we're bringing like-minded people and bringing in people. Josh is there and I'm there, and we're more youth and more people of color, and then we're ADOS, and then so we're bringing in people to change. And the ranking file greens are not happy with that narrative, because they wanted to remain a white, lily white club, gardening club, and it's not that today. The Green Party is a real political machine, and that is that's running candidates, and we expect our candidates to win. We're not whatever happened before this particular new branch of government and the Green Party got there is what happened. But it's a new dawn and a new day. We will not be ran over. We will not be disrespected. We will not be pushed aside. You can't do just what you want to do because you think you want to do it because your white privilege says it's okay. That's not happening today either. We are standing up for what we believe in, and we're not running people just to be running them. Say we ran a candidate like y'all did a whole Okay, I hear. I hear our president's voice in my ear saying, "Don't say that." So I'm not gonna say that, but not literally, but theoretically, I get So, well, we're running candidates to win. And I don't know why they ran candidates before, but the goal today is to be a real party, a party where people respect us, a party where people want to join, a party that people want to come and be a part of and grow and bring their family into, a party that where they know that we gonna leave the light on for you, a party that they know that when you come and join the Green Party of today, hashtag why I'm green. I am green because I am willing to stand my ground, to make the necessary changes, to bring the people in, and to become a party that is respected by everyone. Not just some people, but all the people, that we are really a party to be reckoned with. And that's what we want to do.
So why I'm green, a lot of the similar things. I'm tired. I wanted someone that they'll be able to place to actually listen to me, be able to talk about ideas and policy, and build an idea to help actual people, not keep us in place, make us go forward, move forward with actual real ideas. Where the current two-party system, where they want to get on board with all these big ideas, but then pull back, and we're left with all privates in our hands, so to speak. And we need change, and having people in positions of leadership that are minorities in some way, shape, or form. Being able to have those advice, being in those key leadership places, help break that racism. And you asked before, Toya, how we can, how I think of how we can stop these actions from happening in the future. And I forgot to mention, I kind of agree, but kind of disagree with the whole cancel culture kind of aspect of things that have been going on as time go on. But I like to think of who the Green Party ran in 2012 as the presidential candidate, and their actions. I know
Nader, right? Was it Ralph Nader in 2012?
Roseanne Ball 2012. And her tweets about Obama, the Obama aid, and her just general Trumpism like sayings and attitudes, kind of
Howie-ish. That sounds kind of.
And it proves that point, and that's what I'm saying. Like, literally, I wasn't gonna not call out that.
Sorry, my bad.
But I was gonna say more. It's more. I can make more direct connotations to Roseanne, because cancel culture kind of canceled her twice in two different, in 2012 and in 18 or 19.
I know. Okay, so Jill ran in 2016, right?
Yep.
Jill ran in 2016, which got us maintain our third party status. I think I was flipping through something yesterday, and I saw Howie, and he was giving someone, and this is my channel, I'm gonna say what I want. I saw Howie, and he was giving someone advice on how to get a campaign manager. And I thought that was the most ironic thing ever. And I had to stop. You know me, I'm gonna stop by and say, you need a new campaign manager, because how your campaign manager was wreaking havoc and inserting all kinds of racist undertones in her behavior. And which really I understand is because she's a Latino woman. But I have to realize that when immigrants come here, no matter where they're from, they're not coming here to be black. They're coming here to achieve the American dream, which is the American white dream. So they want to get as close to that whiteness as possible. So the behavior that she showed in this campaign cost her candidate a lot of votes. Not to say that he would have won, because there's a 99.9% chance that he wasn't going to win, but he might have got a whole lot more votes. States might have been more willing to work with her. I know I would have been willing to work with them if they'd have came to Black leadership and, you know, and asked. I would have, if she'd took the proper channels and asked if we would help, then we would have, you know, they could have won. He could have achieved 5% for us here in Minnesota, but because of his management and because of the chaos and that she exuded throughout the party, not just here in Minnesota, but throughout the entire party, she was not able to focus on the campaign, on the job at hand, which was running her candidate's campaign. But do join the cleaning party, because we're cleaning all that up. We're clean. It's messy, but we're getting it together. We just, you know, every family has fights. Every family has internal disagreements, and these are just some of our internal disagreements. But it will get better, and I do believe that. Or I would have left. It's still not bad as the Democrat Party and the Republican Party.
The Democrat Party is here in the Green Party now too. I don't know if people know, there was a website, an opposition research website created against one of our Green Party elected officials, alleging past criminal history from dating back in the early 2000s. Which
I don't want to rehash that. I don't want to rehash that. But
no. I was going to say, but the person who accused of doing it is a spouse of a Democrat elected official whose policy aide is now in a leadership position in the Green Party. So we do have that problem that we need to address, and they're using ADOS minority people as a ploy and cover to do things like that too, seeing the people that it's coming from.
Yes, I have actually had to call our chair of the 5th CD and come to a resolution to recuse herself. To have the person who's on the screening committee to recuse themselves in the actual screening of our elected official for her rerun, because there is no way that her opponent's aide should be sitting on a, you know, it's so much that went on before we got here that we have to undo, and it's going to take time, but it's coming to pass, right? And I think that the leadership that was here in Minnesota before, the president that was here right before Tran was here, didn't have the fortitude, to withstand some of the things, the attacks that were on her, because she was by herself. She didn't have the
willpower,
the fortress that was around her that our chair has now. You know, if he was by himself, he might have the same experience that she may have, but he's not alone. He has a fortress of people around him, and we're all fighting for one common goal. So, and that's change in a system that has been the same way forever. This is an apparatus that we are using, that we as young people and Black people and minority people who are using to grow our political currency, as to say that, our political stance, and using that as a tool to get away from Democrats and get away from Republicans, get away from, you know, others, and be able to run candidates and move on to the next phase of life. That's just one part, putting the right people in office, the right people and having the right people sitting in office. Well, we are over. I guess because we started late, right? We are over. Do you have anything that you want to say to close up? Any last words, Josh? I want to thank you for coming out. I am so grateful. Thank you for being with me this morning. Sorry that Darnella couldn't be with us for this conversation, but we'll bring you back when she gets our internet.
Oh yeah, it's always fun if all three of us are on a call together talking.
Yes, it is, and the views and opinions expressed here on the Morning Coffee Show are my views. They're not the views of any organization, any Facebook page, any outlet that you may see my message on, any organization that I may belong to, or anyone else other than mine. These are my views. I condone the guests on here, and they become my views also. And until we meet again, I want to say I love you. And green is the new black. So cut the check. I love you. There's nothing you can do about it. See you on Wednesday. Bye-bye. I'll be in Washington on Wednesday. So we're going to do our show live from Washington on Inauguration Day. Yay. We're going to tell them to what? Cut the check. All right. Talk to you guys later. Bye-bye. Love you.